Hello and welcome to my podcast, Up Your Total Glow, your podcast for your body, mind and soul to support, guide and empower you to uncover the most glowing, healthiest and feel-good version of yourself. I am super excited that you are here because if you ask me, there's nothing that looks and feels better. In today's episode, I'm speaking with the absolutely brilliant, wonderful and amazing Amanda Kate. Amanda is a kinesiologist, mentor, archetypal life coach, mother and author of the amazing book Divine.Messy.Human, a spiritual guide to prioritizing internal truth over external influence. This was an amazing interview and Kate shared with us so much wisdom. She told us about her own journey, what kinesiology is, how did this practice find her and change her. She shares with us how the knowledge of emotions impacts our physical health, and why when we work on ourselves, every area in our life will improve, and so much more. So if you are looking to uncover an even healthier, happier and more empowered version of yourself, if you are looking to truly understand your emotions and help them to impact your physical health, then this interview is for you. Please enjoy. Hello and welcome, beautiful Amanda. I'm so excited that you are here today and I can't wait to dive into this conversation with you. How are you?
I'm very, very good. From the moment we sort of met, there's been an instant connection. So I'm really super excited to be here and be sharing with you and your audience and learning from you all as well.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, let's dive right into it. So
Yeah.
could you maybe introduce yourself and share a little bit of your journey with my audience? Huge question.
Yeah. I think it's that $1 million question, isn't it? Where the hell do I start with that?
Yeah.
Well, I was born in, part of our connection is obviously Australia. So I was born in Perth. I grew up in Adelaide. Then I went over to the UK for 11 years and I came back home, but home was a 10-hour drive from Adelaide. So I've settled in Melbourne, just over 11 years now. So I still sort of consider myself the gypsy of no fixed address, because Melbourne's still not home, but I'm not quite sure where is. And I guess what brought me to the natural therapies, in the very first instance, was my own health. And we spoke a bit about this in our initial meetings and things, but my health was going downhill. I was suffering for 13 days a month with my menstrual cycle. So 6 days in ovulation and 7 days at bleed. And, the moods, the sore boobs, the literally, you name it, the cramps, I ticked all of the boxes. And I was exhausted. I got to, I think it was about 2013, and I was needing 3-hour naps in the afternoon.
Wow.
And so my body was just doing all of the stuff that did not feel normal at all. And what happened was doctors were running all the blood tests and going, "You are the healthiest sick person we know.
Right.
Here's some antidepressants."
Right.
And I'm going, "I'm not depressed. I know that's not it." And they're like, "Well, it's the same way that we give people the pill sometimes for things other than contraception." And I'm going, "Yeah, no." And I think that was the first time that I really listened to my intuition. Like, it screamed at me, "Do not take those damn tablets."
Right.
And so that was really that first moment of, I'm not getting the answers I need. And I just happened to go to the gym with a naturopath, and I'm like, book me in. I've got no idea what we need to do, but get me started on something. So that was when I got off gluten. So that was, I guess, the first step, really. And then come beginning of 2015, I just felt like an empty shell of a human being. I had basically a 4-hour tirade thrown at me from my ex-husband, which was in length. It was the longest, but it was by no means unusual. And I came back to Melbourne after this family holiday, and I went to the doctor to get a mental health care plan because I thought I was so broken that I needed to fix myself to save my marriage. And that will tell you just in that comment where my headspace was and what I thought of myself at a very high level. And so I got the mental health care plan, rang a psychologist because obviously it's only the more, Western traditional modalities that are covered with mental health care plans. I booked in with a psychologist, and the receptionist was the one who changed my life. She said to me, okay, the next mindful, because the reason I liked this psychologist was she did mindfulness courses and assertiveness courses. And so I really wanted to do her mindfulness course. She's like, well, this was middle to end of April. And she said, okay, the mindfulness course doesn't start till the end of May. I can't get you in with the psychologist till the middle of May. You're sounding really stressed. What's going on for you? And I said, well, moved to Australia. And, I kind of gave the high level socially acceptable answer to that. And that my son was being hurt at school, and my daughter was miserable, and my now ex-husband was unhappy in his work and was getting used to living over the other side of the world from his family and all of that stuff. And the receptionist interrupted me and she said, and who's got your back?
Beautiful.
And that question floored me. I could not answer. I was sobbing. And she said, okay, because you sound under so much stress, I can also offer you, there's a kinesiologist who works here, or there's a Reiki practitioner. And I'd had Reiki before, and I was a bit about it. I went, book me with the kinesiologist. I've got no idea what's going on. I don't even know what they do. I'd never heard of one before. Get me in. I'm willing to try anything. And that first session's just changed my life. Absolutely changed my life. It was my first session of any kind of energy and vibrational medicine. And I walked out of there feeling like a different person. But in that first session, she said, you have no idea how emotionally abused you are, do you?
Wow.
And I could put a number of major relationships in my life into that category. But it took me another 4 months to see that the main perpetrator, so to speak, was the person I was married to, and it took me then another 4 months to be able to leave. And so it just really, I started to understand what was going on inside me. I understood why I was as miserable as I was. I started to understand the vibrational implications of that internal landscape being squished down, no true expression of myself, and constantly trying to please everybody else and make sure that everybody else was happy with me. And so there was actually none of me. I think I wrote something along the lines of this in my book, that nobody ever had a chance to like me. Because they never had a chance to know me, because I didn't know myself. And what I was doing for most of my life was putting forward a persona that I thought others wanted to see.
Yeah.
So I would be a different person with my parents, with my ex-husband, with my sister, with my friends, with this group, with that group. I was constantly changing who I was and who I needed to be to supposedly fit in. And of course, that worked beautifully. Not very well at all, for those who didn't read the sarcasm in that. And it caused a lot of hell in my life, a lot of loneliness, even when I was with people, because I didn't even know who I was. And so that really started then, since 2015, this huge change of life. Beginning of 2016, I'm left my my marriage. And in the sort of 4 years from the end of 2015 to the end of 2019, I basically did 6 years worth of study in that 4 years. So I found kinesiology and I did all the advanced stuff that was, thrown my way. I did TBM, which is another type of kinesiology. I did my Reiki and Reiki Advanced. And so literally I was just like a massive sponge going, the more I know about this, the less I realize I know and the more I want to learn.
Hmm. Wow, absolutely amazing. And it's really so hard to believe when I look at you, And for those among you who are only listening, maybe you can hear in her voice how absolutely vibrant and vital Amanda looks now and also comes across. I can really feel your energy. And before we jumped onto recording this interview, I told you, wow, all the sun is all of a sudden streaming in for me. And I feel like this is your amazing energy. So there's this amazing glow about you. This, yes, is on the outside, but comes really strongly from the inside. And I think it's almost hard to believe then what hell of a journey you've gone through and how broken you felt, how much the body actually screamed at you, stop, I can't take it any longer, I can't hold this anymore. It's so fascinating to me, first of all, how the body sends us these messages of, wake up, wake up.
Yeah.
Do I have to become even clearer? Wake up. But then also on another level, how the body can heal and rejuvenate and recover. And you are the best example here. And on a very personal level, I can fully relate to your story. And I feel so many of us can. Unfortunately, or maybe also fortunately, life is very rarely a straightforward journey. We are always, or I feel I'm always on a quest to, understand myself better, explore myself better, and get to know my soul or what's really me. But what I'd love to talk about is really this body-mind connection, because you are the expert in this. And so maybe first of all, can you explain to us, so what is kinesiology?
So kinesiology in Australia and other parts of the world is quite different to what it is in the US, although we do have that kinesiology here. Kinesiology, it basically is muscle movements. But the way that we read the muscle movements is about the full energetic picture. And the fact that I like to sort of bring out to illustrate that is that quantum physicists have proven that the universe is 4% physical matter. So when we're looking at this human meat suit that we're walking around in, it's 4% of our picture. So the rest is our mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, emotional health, our metaphysical health, our relational health, our sexual health, our transformational health, our financial health, like all of those different things that all feed into this holistic picture of who we are. And so when somebody comes into my clinic, into a session with me, I am looking at the totality of that. So as much as I'm listening to what obviously they're telling me, I'm also listening for what they're not telling me. And when, we're actually in session, we are using the electrical signals of the body to muscle test, and I won't quite go into muscle testing now. A lot of people really swear by it. Bruce Lipton is a huge proponent of it, and David Hawkins, and a lot of those sort of people talk about Psych K and kinesiology and muscle testing. So there's lots of stuff out there that you guys can have a look at. But basically what we're doing is we're looking for muscle tone. So if something is not stressful, your arm and your muscle or whatever muscle we're testing can hold its tone.
Mm.
So the same way that, if a singer has done all of the right things and the voice is unstressed, they can sing those perfect notes.
Mm.
When something stresses the body, the electrical signal falters. It doesn't get through the way that it should. And it's like, oh, I don't like that so much.
Mm.
And so then the muscle tone will change, and you can feel that as a weak muscle, although I don't like to tend to use the words weak and strong, because then people think it's a fight, and we're not doing a strength test, we're doing a muscle test. So it's slightly different. But in feeling for that muscle tone, we get a lot of answers to different questions. So part of my role is almost playing detective and finding the right questions to ask to get the results that we need to get. And I'm quite lucky with the type of kinesiology that I do. We use what's called finger mode. So it's like our hand is an index system, and the different parts that we point to and put our finger on give us the menu items of what we're working on. The other thing that I love about our kinesiology is that we actually find the root cause. So we're not looking at the symptoms. You come in with symptoms and they're great. They kind of tell us a bit of what's going on. But the symptoms are the expression of what's been happening underneath. And what we want to do is find when that seed was planted, why it was planted, what put it there, what emotions were feeding it. And then we want to be able to pull it out by the root. And so that's what we're really looking for. And so if you think about the Western health model, you go into your doctor, well, I've got diabetes. Well, why have I got diabetes? Because you've got these symptoms. Well, why do I have these symptoms? Because you've got diabetes. Okay, so what's caused my diabetes? Well, because you've got these symptoms. And so you can see that sort of feedback loop of they're explaining a disease with the symptoms rather than why do you have that? Because I might have a genetic profile that says I am more inclined to get diabetes, but I need a stress in my body to flick that switch to turn that expression on.
Totally.
And that's the bit that we're looking for. Well, why did that switch get switched in the first place? What happened in that? And the way we look at trauma is that a trauma is anything that your body finds less than nourishing and nurturing. So when we think of it like that, our parents yelling at us can be stored as a trauma in the body. And this is why so many people have such different ideas of what is traumatic to them, because it isn't just the really big things like sexual assaults or rapes or abuse or accidents or disabilities, or they are obviously massively traumatic events, but traumas can be anything that is less than nourishing and nurturing. And once we understand that, we can start to understand how some of these switches get flipped.
Totally agree with you. So thank you so much also for going into a little bit more detail about trauma and what it is, because I do feel this is still very misunderstood. And many of us feel, well, but I had a very happy childhood, there was no abuse or anything. And by understanding that it could be those little moments of rejection from peers, from maybe where you didn't quite get from your parents, even though they were very loving. And this is not, a guilt game or anything.
No.
But maybe you didn't get what you as an individual needed at that time. This then can manifest as trauma. So thank you so much for clearing that up, because I do feel this is so important for us to understand.
Yeah.
And obviously I love the way you work, because I feel this is exactly how I work too. I see myself as well as a detective and, trying to really understand, but, what happened in the first place? Why, like you said, the root cause. And then you can pull that out or, go maybe in little steps about it to heal and realign depending on, your modality. And then it doesn't mean that like our medical system, and I'm not, against the medical system. It's great for emergency situations. So I wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for it. So thank you. But I do think we have to be aware that there's a whole other thing left out in the system. And this is the preventative portion of it. This is the, healing from the root cause up. Because yes, if we only treat symptoms, then there are whole other cascades that are happening, and we can go in circles and cycles and just never get really to the cause of it, to the root cause of it. Yeah. So thank you so much for clearing that up. Totally with you. So tell us, how does the knowledge of emotion, so when we understand how we truly feel, how does this help us to heal on a deeper level? Can you connect the dots a little bit more for me? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think taking it back to, what was happening around that time. So there's often times I might have somebody on the table and I'll be like, what happened when you were 7? And they'll go, holy crap, I can't believe you went back to that age. And I'm like, tell me more. And they will have this memory that comes in whereby they felt some form of trauma. And whether it's a big T or a little t trauma or whatever you want to call it, I don't really like to classify them in that way, because it makes things into better than worse than.
Thank you.
Yours is worse than mine. Comparative suffering type takes it down that.
What is that even? Comparative suffering. Yeah.
Exactly. It brings it back to, yes, that was traumatic for the client in that moment.
Yeah.
And the emotion is what I guess is that replay button.
Yeah.
It's the fertilizer that is nourishing and nurturing that weed. It is the juice in the story of what happened. And it's all of the stories then we create because that event happened to us.
Yeah.
And so, say it was a teacher. I'll just say the first example that came to my head then was, I was in high school, and a teacher said to my best friend, "Are you in this class deliberately trying to fail?" Now, so many shades of wrong. But
what were you thinking?
Imagine, how many different emotions would be attached to that. And what stories then do you tell yourself going forward? Well, I'm no good at school. I'm no good at this subject. I'm no good at this. I'm stupid. I'm dumb. I'm whatever. You're feeling frustrated because you're doing your best and nobody's noticing, because you may not be the most academic person, whatever it is. You can see how a multitude of stories can then be linked to that one event. You can see how from one event, you can also then go back in your life and go, well, hang on, he's told me I'm not smart enough to pass this class. How many other times have I been told I'm not smart enough? Oh, maybe I'm not. And then we start believing the story about ourselves, and then we act as if it's true. And then not only are we acting as if it's true, we've trained our reticular activating system in our brain to look for what's true. So the reticular activating system, for those who don't know, they've done studies on it, and it is the importance ranking type part of the brain. So the most famous study I think they did was red cars. And so they told people to go out and notice red cars, and everybody all of a sudden is like, oh my God, what's happened? They've put all these red cars on the road. Now, it's not that there were more red cars on the road. It was the fact that people were noticing them because they've been told to notice them. So the importance of red cars elevated above other colors of car. The same way that I never thought there were pregnant women around until I got pregnant. And all of a sudden, everybody in London at the time was pregnant. Now, that actually wasn't the case. Clearly, there was not a massive baby boom just because I was having a baby. But all of a sudden, I noticed all of these women who were pregnant, because the importance of it had increased. And when you look at how much information our brain is taking in every single minute, or every second. It's something like 400 billion bits of information that our brain is trying to process every second. And our brain has to filter it through different levels of importance, through our societal beliefs, through all sorts of filters, through our upbringing, through our, through our culture, through all of these different things, because we can only process such a small amount of them. So what happens is, if you constantly have this message coming in that you're not smart enough, it increases the importance within your reticular activating system. And then you go around looking for examples of how I'm not smart enough to reinforce the story that's sitting there. And this is part of where that work takes us, is to unpack those stories and to be able to interrupt those signals and lessen importance on those things that we're used to be looking for.
Amazing.
So say, for example, me doing this work, I now notice so much more wonder and awe. Like, I'm looking out my window now, the sun is setting, I can see the beautiful sort of pale peachy orange sky, and there's silhouettes of the plants, and it is stunning. And I'm just like, oh my God, wow, that's amazing. When I walk on the beach in the morning, I have so many photos of the beach from the same spots in my phone, because I'm constantly in wonder and awe. Why? Because I've raised the importance of that, and I've lowered the importance of, oh God, I did that stupid thing, or I did this, or I did that, or I did the. So it's really, that's also a crux of the work. So that's how the emotions sort of link in, is when I was told that, it made me feel X. And so when I get those feelings again, I'm going to run all these old stories.
Beautiful. Very well explained. And I absolutely love how, it gives the power back to us. So in the end, it's very empowering, all of what you're saying, because this also means, we can, bit by bit, and with someone's help if needed, unpack all of this and then go about to really live our most fulfilled, best, healthiest life. And this sounds so much different and feels so much different than, I'm broken, I'm a mess, my life is over, I've made 100 mistakes, I'm a bad girl, I don't know, whatever comes to mind. Which is not empowering at all in comparison to what you have just shared. So thank you so much. I absolutely love this. There is so much I would love to unpack with you and go deeper in, but there is one question that I would like to ask you, because I feel it's a big one, and I do feel you've got, quite a grounded way of looking at things, which I like, I would like to say I'm a spiritual person, but I'm always coming from this grounded body approach. So this is why I'm going to ask you this huge question. And then I would absolutely love to dive more into your book, which I can't wait to get my hands on. So here's the big question. What is spirituality?
Well, it's actually funny that you mentioned the book, in that I did write at the beginning of my book what I feel spirituality is, so that people understood where I was coming from. So for me, spirituality is not about religion and dogma and ritual and other people telling me what I should and shouldn't believe. Spirituality at the crux for me is about my personal experience with God, the creator, Mother Earth, whatever you want to call him. I actually don't care. Her, him, it, they, whatever. I do not think that God is this, guy in a white dress with a white beard who is a white guy in the clouds who is raining down fire and brimstone. I don't believe that he is vengeful. I believe that creator, source energy, is pure love, pure peace, pure joy, pure happiness, pure connection, oneness. And we all have that within us. We are all God source. We also then have that messy humanness and the free will choice that is our human experience here. It took me a long time to be comfortable saying the word God, and now I'm fine with it. I do
Mm.
prefer goddess just because, if God can be a man, he can also be a woman.
Totally.
She can also be
Hell
a
yeah.
woman. So I think it is ungendered. I feel that the energy is very ungendered. It is just about that purity of
Mm.
spirit. And so for me, and it kind of goes back to something you were saying earlier, my biggest value is self mastery.
Mm. Beautiful.
And spirituality ties into that. All of the work I do ties into that. Everything ties into that. That is the value I hold highest above all else, because the
Mm.
more I understand myself, the more connected I can be to everybody else, the more I
Mm.
can understand everybody else, and the more that even when I am being resourceful or people around me are being unresourceful, I can match that with empathy and grace and compassion rather than judgment, frustration, and anger.
Mm.
It's
So
what
the
makes
better
my
you
life
can live
easy.
your purpose and
Mm,
serve, yeah, and
yeah,
spread that love. That's for
yeah,
me what you're saying, which is so
mm,
beautiful and so amazing. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so that's where I kind of go with that.
Mm. I love that. That's such a beautiful definition of spirituality and one I can very much relate to. So thank you so much. Okay, let's dive into your book. So I absolutely love the title already. I think it's called Divine.Messy.Human. So
Yes.
tell me about your book. You've already said a little bit about it, but tell us more. And also, of course, where can we find it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wrote Divine Messy Human probably 100 times in my head over the 5 years before I actually started
Mm.
writing it. So when I first started writing it, it was middle of October last year, and within, I think it was 120 days, I had written it, worked with my
Wow.
editor on it, and I was holding it in my hands.
Wow.
It just flowed once it started.
Wow.
There's a little bit of my story in there, but not a lot. The stories that I've tried to use in there are mostly to illustrate the best way I can the tools and techniques that I've used basically to go from self-loathing to self-love,
Mm.
self-acceptance, and self-compassion,
Beautiful.
and really turn my life around. If I go back to that me who first walked into my kinesiologist's office, if I go back to her, there's no way she would believe that she could live the life I'm living now.
Mm.
It is that different, and it is that alien to me. Even now, I pinch myself every day that I'm able to live the life that I can, that I'm able to be of service to other people,
Mm.
that I even have a book with my name on it. And so these are really those tools and techniques. So I take people through emotional fluency, so starting to understand their emotions and what they are. Things like balancing opposing principles, so really talking about the masculine and feminine within us. And again,
Beautiful.
that's not about gender, it is about archetypal masculine feminine. I talk about spirituality and paradox,
Mm.
so how we have to be comfortable with the fact that it's not this or this, it's
Mm.
this, it's
Mm.
and both and more. We never just feel one emotion, for example. We will often feel a whole plethora of emotions. And so it's really about understanding that internal landscape. It's understanding how your intuition works and what skills and tools you can use to develop that. And so there's a lot of different parts of my practice
Mm.
that come in. And
Amazing.
I have, yeah, it was so cathartic to write in so many ways. And it was interesting, actually. My editor sat on it for a few weeks, and I'm like, oh, she said she'd have it to me by now. Oh my God. And we ended up having a chat, and she said, oh my goodness, it brought up stuff for me that I've had to sort of sit with.
Mm.
And I'm going, okay, so it's
Wow,
doing
how
its job.
profound.
That's exactly what it needed to do.
Mm.
And once I helped her move through that, it flew. So it was really fascinating.
That's
But
funny.
even, yeah,
Once you have to move through that, yeah.
yeah, it
Mm.
was. And I've heard similar things from other people who've read it, that they're like, oh my
Mm.
God, that I just needed that bit at that time. And it's all written in small, accessible chapters. So it's not like you sit down and it's this big, heavy tome. I've written it in very small, bite-sized chunks. And so it is easy to pick up and read a little bit here, or read a few paragraphs, or read a small chapter, and then put it down and go, okay, I'll be ready for my next lesson whenever. So
Beautiful.
I've tried to keep it really accessible.
And I'm sure it is. And I wish I had read it before. So unfortunately, I haven't.
We can talk again after.
Exactly, but I will. And like I said, I
Yeah.
can't wait to get my hands on it because it sounds so profound, so beautiful. And I feel almost a guide that we all need because, yeah, life is getting crazier by the day, I feel. And those outside influences seem to get more important and more important. What I hear you saying or in your book is that you actually coming from the other way. You're trying to help us rebalance from the inside, so then we can attract and live on the outside our best lives. And I feel this is the only way that really works. Yet what we all trying to do, and me included for a very long time, trying to fix the outside.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it, but it just doesn't really work on the long run unless we also are willing to, go this journey from the inside.
Yeah.
Did I interpret that correctly?
Absolutely. So the subtitle of the book is A Spiritual Guide to Prioritizing Internal Truth Over External Influence. And the way I talk about it with clients is we want to develop internal scaffolding and external scaffolding. So the internal scaffolding is the spiritual tools, it is the practices, it is the healthy eating, it is the things that nourish our body, relationships that are nourishing and nurturing, and all of that sort of stuff. And the external scaffolding is our support structures. It is having the right practitioners to phone when you need help. I mean, I have a speed dial list of, however many that I will contact if there's an issue. So, it must be a few months ago now, because I've been working with him for a little while. I was like, I really feel like I need to go and see somebody about my insomnia. Insomnia is one of those things that keeps coming back for me. And this guy's name popped into my head, and I'm like, I met him like 3 years ago at a networking function, and his name's popped into my head. I'm like, weird, but okay. Made an appointment with him, blew my mind. He got to the crux of why my nervous system is so primed for insomnia. And I'm like, holy hell, but I trust that guidance. And so there's this whole range of people that I have on that list. And sometimes it's a massage therapist, because I don't want to talk about what's going on. I'm shifting it myself. Other times it will be a coach or a kinesiologist or an acupuncturist or somebody who works on a more spiritual level, because they can see it from a different perspective to me, because often I'm too close to my shit to see it clearly, as we all are. So I need that external person. So I look at life in that internal scaffolding, external scaffolding. But realistically, what we want to do at any time is go in before we go out for answers. Our bodies are built to move at walking pace, and yet we fly through the world at 40, 60, 80, 100 kilometers an hour. We have flashing images, we have lights, we have sounds, we have stuff bombarding us every second of the day, pretty much. And in that, our body just can't process it. But what we are used to doing is going to those noises, to those people before we go in. Think of when we're little, you're unwell, you go to the doctor. Something happens at school, you go to the teacher. Something happens at home, you go to your parent. You're always told to go outside of yourself. And nobody then sits you down when you're a teenager, adult, and goes, oh, now, by the way, you need to really listen to that intuition, because these people were here just to guide you until you got to that stage.
True.
We kind of forget that.
It's completely left out, actually. And I love what you've just said. I love, for me, you have been saying, we actually have all this knowledge deep within ourselves, if we can only stop and start to hear it again and then listen to it, trust it. And this is the answer we mostly need. Yet it's not easy to do.
And we need to act on it.
Exactly.
That's the last bit, because I was getting all of those messages. So what you were saying before, the hearing it, the trusting it.
Yeah.
I had all of that. I heard all the red flags all through my marriage. I saw them all. I understood them. I knew I needed to get the hell out.
Yeah.
I never acted on it.
Yeah.
Until I was sick as a dog.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. It's like we need that last step to act.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Sorry to jump in, but I'm like,
no.
we need that last step.
You are completely right. Absolutely. You know, it doesn't work if we only, you know, start to hear and start to trust, but then don't do anything about it. You would be still in this marriage and still be even more sick now. So no, that wouldn't have worked, and you couldn't do the amazing work that you're doing now, which I'm so grateful for. But what I felt this was creating a whole circle now, because now we are back to this helping our bodies to be in a more relaxed state, that we can actually, you know, hear those intuition signals or whatever we want to call them, which are so hard to even hear when we are just so tense and just running and, you know, always coming from the outside. So I feel that that was really beautiful and made kind of a circle. So we are running a little bit out of time, which is very unfortunate, because I feel I would love to chat with you forever. So we'll definitely have to have another interview. But could you give my audience maybe 3 gold nuggets that you feel would really empower them? And then I still want to hear, where can we actually find your book? And where can we find you, beautiful? And no, you can't do really online work, but
I do.
Oh, you do?
I actually do.
Amazing.
So if you think, I mean, even now we're talking, you're tuning into me and I'm tuning into you.
Yes.
So everybody has their own vibrational frequency and their own radio station, so to speak. And so that's what I tune into when I'm working.
Beautiful.
So it's like I throw my auric field, like a blanket over you and read what's going on. And then at the end of the session, I pull it back. You know, you're fully in your energetic integrity and I'm fully in my energetic integrity. So that's sort of how I do it.
And I know that this totally works. I just want to say this because actually for a long time I thought you can't do yoga online. This just doesn't work. And then I tried it for the first time and I was just surprised so much that actually if you really tune in, zone in, it does work. And that's exactly what you are describing. So thank you.
Yeah. So I think the 3 nuggets, one is to start listening to those little whispers. And so people will get them in different ways, by the way. Some people, we can call them the psychic senses, we can call them intuitive gifts, whatever you want to call them. The senses are claircognizance, which is clear knowing. That's where we just know stuff. Clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. So we might see number repetitions or signs, symbols, our eyes drawn to words on a page or a certain image. And we're like, oh my God, that's really relevant. Or clairaudience is clear hearing. So that's where we might walk past someone on the street and go, oh my God, did you hear that? Or turn on a radio and hear the perfect line from the song for what we needed right then. We also have clairsentience, which is clear feeling. We have clairgustance, which is clear taste, and clairsalience, which is clear smell. So we can get any of those senses bringing in information the same way we do in life normally. So noticing things that are around us or that we're feeling and then going, I wonder what that is. Okay, let me see what it's telling me to do. Everybody knows, whether we call them vibes or intuition or whatever, you know when you're around someone that you're like, oh, I better be careful here. We get it. So we know that we have this. It's just about developing it. And the way I tell people to start is really small. So I don't know, go into a food court at lunchtime Do I want the sushi or do I want McDonald's? If your body goes, yeah, I really want sushi today, and you go and get McDonald's, notice how you feel.
Mm. Beautiful.
It's really interesting. It's so simple. The other thing is slow down. I have a saying in my book, which is sprinkle spiritual practices through the day,
Love it.
like little
Yes.
dewdrops.
Yes.
And so it's about going, okay, I'm going to sit. Let's say you have a coffee first thing in the morning. I'm going to smell it. I'm going to really enjoy and savor the smell and the taste. And I'm going to put my phone away, and I'm not going to run around. I'm going to have it in a proper mug rather than my, on the go cup. Enjoy it, smell it, savor it, taste it, feel it going down your throat. The same way with, eating your food or whatever it is, just little tiny moments of real, true presence.
Beautiful.
Throughout the day. And the third one is really act on a few of those impulses that you're getting and see what the results are.
Beautiful.
Be prepared. Be prepared for some magic and welcome the magic in.
Beautiful. So empowering. I love you.
Yeah.
I love your work.
Thank
you
you,
are
thank
amazing.
You. Thank you, Jo.
Again,
and we can get the book
Yeah.
from www.amandakate.com.au. That's the best place to kind of connect with me. It's got most of my, I think, all but my TikTok link there. I think I should actually double check that. My TikTok is at Divine.Messy. LinkedIn, I'm Amanda-Kate. I think it's Amanda__Kate at Instagram, and Amanda Kate Transformation on Facebook. There's too many Amanda Kates for me to have them all consistent.
Oh, beautiful.
And there's, you can get it on Amazon, you can get it on Kindle. So yeah, it's very easy to get your hands on.
Great. Have you done an audio version yet?
I have not yet, no.
I would love one, because I love your Aussie accent, of course, and your voice. So this might be a project.
Thank you.
No,
as soon as I've got the money, I will be doing it. Yeah, it's not the cheapest of exercises, but it's coming. It's coming.
I'm sure it is. I can feel it. Absolutely amazing. Is there anything you would quickly touch upon that I haven't mentioned?
No, look, I trust that the conversations go where they need to go, and the right people are going to tune in at the right time and get the gifts that they need to get. So yeah.
Beautiful.
And thank you for bringing your work into the world. It's so, so needed. So I'm so grateful for you as well.
Oh, thank you. That's such a beautiful thing to say. So I will definitely put all of your links in the show notes, and I will make sure that this podcast comes out before Christmas, because I personally feel that this book is an amazing Christmas present for pretty much everyone, myself included. So I will give this present to me as soon as possible, as soon as I jump off this call. And awesome. I would love for everyone else who feels drawn to this to do the same. Amanda, thank you so much for your amazing work, for all that you do to make our world a healthier, happier place. You are amazing. I am such a huge fan of you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for a light. Just thank you.
Oh, thank you as well.
Take care.
You too.
I hope that you loved and enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And if you did, I have a tiny favor to ask. It would be wonderful if you could help me to support me on my mission to make our world a healthier, happier place. And you can do so by spreading the word, by sharing, liking, subscribing, and reviewing my podcast. This really helps so that others can find it, and through the podcast know that there's so much more they can do to really uncover the best version of themselves. I know that you were born to live your best life and to feel absolutely beautiful in your amazing body, in your brilliant mind, and in your boundless soul. So what are you still waiting for? Please make sure you do. I'm your biggest cheerleader. I believe in you. Keep glowing. Much love.